Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, saya dipanjangkan umur sekali lagi hari ini sampai ke 8th of Muharram 1442. Maka bersyukur kita, saya terutamanya, yang dah masuk zon-zon waktu asar nak masuk maghrib kot, ya. So Alhamdulillah, I'm able to continue this effort to bring in as much as sharing as possible, and to invite all of you, especially experts, to leave comments and further enlighten, broaden this knowledge in the column on comments. Please do so. Clear your conscience. This is sharing of knowledge, and I believe in free education. Now, Alhamdulillah. Sorry, excuse me. I didn't have my morning stream today, but instead I have my morning ride. Now, please again, let me implore to everyone, especially my Muslim fellow brothers and sisters, if you happen to go into a mosque to worship, to have your zikr, especially during Fridays, Salat, Jum'at, when the khatib is already beginning to preach, recite khutbah, please refrain from listening and watching my video. I don't want to be involved in that manner. And also, if you are having other faith, other religion, and you have got to worship, please do it without my video on. And especially when you have meetings with bosses too, clients, etc., in your office or anywhere in the world, and also driving your car, truck, or even ride your bikes, please refrain from watching my video. And especially when your wife calls you for something urgent, please leave my video away. And for that and other occupation that you got to do, do concentrate in your job. Excuse me, and do not have to listen and watch my video, because what I share in this video needs attention and needs concentration. It's not an entertainment, it's education. All right, so thank you very much. Today we're gonna talk about something very important. I was involved in the work when I was younger. We're gonna talk about the dust particulate, and let us take a look if the law regulate the emissions of ambient dust. Okay, let's take a look, and let's also try to ponder into some environmental sciences while we are on it. All right, so if you're ready, by the way, for those who have subscribed, Alhamdulillah, hanya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala memberikan keberkatan kepada you. Saya doakan semua, especially yang subscribe dan all who watch this video, to be blessed with a higher level of understanding and knowledge, and to be blessed with happiness in life, okay, and good health. Okay, let us go on into the next slide I have for you. We are going to talk about monitoring. Excuse me. Alhamdulillah. I believe we all have a good understanding that one of the responsibility in our environmental management is to identify what are the pollutants that we generate from our operation. And how to identify it is by undergoing a set of systematic environmental monitoring technique. All right, in this particular video though, we are going to look into environmental monitoring, how it is being regulated under the law. But before that, let me share with you there are various types of environmental monitoring. One is point source, another one is ambient source. Okay, now when we talk about dust particulate, Apparently the law, because we are still in the Environmental Quality Clean Air Regulations 2014 under the Environmental Quality Act 1974. All right, so we are discussing that clean air regulation, and one of the provisions under clean air regulation, remember, is about air pollution, is regulating periodic environmental monitoring. If you remember, when we were discussing third schedule of the clean air regulation earlier on in earlier videos, I believe you have come across that in some of those provisions has stipulated specific uh, frequency of environmental monitoring. All right, and there are some which does not specify how often do we have got to perform our environmental monitoring. All right, so keep that in question. Now let's take a look at this. Okay, there are, as I mentioned, there are two main types of air monitoring: environmental monitoring for air pollution. Number one over here is we are dealing with what is called uh, ambient. Ambient. I have to write, haven't I? Ambient air monitoring. Now, this is another method of environmental monitoring. Now, please remember, ambient air monitoring is apparently one of the popular requirements by the DOE. How does the authority require ambient air monitoring? Normally, there are various ways. Popularly, ambient air monitoring is being imposed in a set of terms and conditions of approval, such as EIA approval. There could be one of those array of terms and conditions requiring project proponent or project owner to perform environmental monitoring even when the project is completed. In this case, ambient air monitoring. And in some other method is, for example, we call it over here kelulusan bertulis for a project or kebenaran bertulis for a project, whereby in those approvals from the authority, one of the terms and conditions of approval is to perform what we call ambient air monitoring in a regular basis. Now, what is ambient air monitoring? Ambient air monitoring, for example, in this picture, if you take a look, the equipment, okay, is called HVS. H is high, V is volume, S is sampler. Now, this equipment will be placed in the monitoring sites or monitoring point, or we call it monitoring station, in a span of 24 hours. It could be until 3 days or until a week, depending on the need based on the project. The longer we have this station, the better the idea that we have about the dust particulate emission. Emission is coming down from the air, from airborne. As you know, dust particulate, they are airborne. And at certain point after them, they are being released in the air due to moisture. due to coagulation with other particles, with other contaminants. It could be metal radicals, it could be radioactive nucleotides, it could be dioxin as we discussed, it could be furan, it could be volatile organic compounds as we have discussed in earlier videos. These particles, which is contaminated, will gain density. Once it has gained density, it will become heavier, and it will come down onto the ground as dust fall out. Now this equipment is designed to suck in those air which is still suspended before it touches the ground. So it's about the air quality around the site. And however, it does not determine where the source of what they call the source of dust is coming from. It does not specify. It is our job to pursue that identification. All right. Now, how we do that? Now, let's take a look at this particular picture here. Alhamdulillah. This is a picture of the filter paper that we placed in a region about 3 kilometers radial distance from a medium-sized industrial area. I can't mention where. All right. And when we picked up every morning after 24 hours, every morning, because we do the survey for about 3 weeks, okay, for that station for a certain job. Well, I reserve that because I can't mention which job, who was with me, and who I work for. All right. Now, when this happened, we take this filter paper in the morning, and this is what we see. Look at the color of that filter paper. What do you think the color is? It is quite consistent, brownish dust. What is it? Now, this area is, I would say, within community resident. It's a kampong, all right, because there was a complaint from this kampong that they have got a high rates of bronchitis, respiratory illness, and the doctors confirm of that illness, and they wanted some. There are people involved who wanted to do monitoring, so we did it, and that is what we found. And as the question goes, are we breathing this air? Now, to date, what I could recall is there are various efforts by the authority imposing directive to industrial players to perform what is called ambient air monitoring. Good. Alhamdulillah. It's good. I think it is a good step to perform ambient air, dust, particulate. We call it total particulate matter, and the Malaysian standard is still 260 microgram per normal cubic meter. The Malaysian guideline is not a law, okay? The Malaysian guideline is restricting it to, let me try and write it down here, 260 what? Micro gram, correct me if I'm wrong, per meter cube. Sorry, not milligram, micro. All right, sorry about that. Okay, I have an eraser here. Okay, good. It's cool. Like it. So, micro. All right. What does it mean? What is 260 microgram per meter cube? Anyone? Now, I am inviting ecological toxicologists, environmental toxicologists, environmental hygiene. Please participate in giving comments in this video. I love to learn from you, and if it's not just me, there are many other people who wants to hear from you. At least tell us, if you know about 260 microgram per meter cube, what does it mean? Please enlighten us. All right, please give me some guide. All right, because I have about 7 journals talking about how 260 microgram per meter cube has been derived. It's quite vague. It's not vivid. The rationale is not vivid. It is scientific mechanism, a lot of calculation, a lot of data, a lot of sampling from this journal, and I got to pay for those journals, and in the end I don't get answers. One journal costed me between 50 to about 150 USD. Come on. And I don't get answers. They publish abstract, but they don't let the paper. In order to have the paper, you got to purchase. I purchase online. Now, I'm not, well, I don't argue with them, but I want to know the exact rationale of 260 microgram per cubic meter based on what case study, which case? Or is it arbitrary? Now, if it is arbitrary, still there is a rationale, usually statistical. I want to know that. Right, thank you. I hope you will join us, give some comment. No liability, okay? I also don't own my video. My video is for public. You learn from it, you expand it, blow it out a higher level, okay? And it's yours. It's not mine. All right. I'm just sharing. I'm just giving back to the community because I learn from a lot of people and I'm paying back. That is all because I'm towards the end of my professional being. Okay, I might not do any public training anymore or in-house training anymore. So this is what I do for the upcoming trainers, the upcoming public trainers. Surface yourself, improve yourself by watching this video coming from an old man from the old experience. That is all right. Now, please enlighten us, ecotoxicologists. Now, this is what we are breathing. Remember, we talk about furan, dioxin, dust particle, transboundary movement in the air. Remember, Malaysia has got haze, and we are inhaling all the air. What is it? What is it? It's just talking about 25 microns or 60 microns or 10 microns. Or, you think it's enough? That information is not enough. We must know more because it comes from combustion. We should be reported as Malaysians. We should know if we are susceptible to those transboundary movement of air pollutants, including haze. We should know what is the haze quality. What does it contain? Does it contain dioxin, furan, volatile organic compounds, non-methane VOC, or is it halogenated non-methane VOC, or is it non-halogenated non-methane volatile organic compounds? Let us know. But what we have is just a figure: mild, medium, high, dangerous, highly dangerous. Okay, fine, which is good. It's an effort, but we want to know more. Dangerous because of what? Content, not just about particulate concentration. Got it? If you are a policy maker in the country, if you are those scientists involved in advising policy maker in the country, please include this. It doesn't cost much anyway. It's just analysis. Okay. Right now, the next one we have also what is called point source environmental monitoring involving a specific equipment. Point source means that these pollutants is emitted from a specific source, such as vent, ventilation exhaust, exhaust itself, or stack, or any outlet, or chimney, or conduits opening, or ventilation opening. These are all point source monitoring where we will use a certain equipment in a specified mechanism and techniques to bring the equipment there and to have a sampling from that particular source that is referred to as point source. Got it? Coffee, anyone? My favorite Arabica. Are you thinking about it? Are you clear? All right. So that is point source. I believe you know what is ambient air monitoring versus point source monitoring. That is in this country done periodically. That is why I put it under the title periodic monitoring. And how often, we'll take a look. All right. Okay. This is a picture of high volume sampler. This is a picture of the isokinetic stack sampling when I was undergoing training in Denmark for this. And you know, it is huge. This is around 2.5 inches. All right, that is why your sampling pot has got to be a minimum of 2.5 inches to 4 inches in diameter. And you know, these are all connectors. All right, these are all connectors. All right, and therefore, when there are more connectors like this, despite the fact that it has got this reputation of being the most accurate sampling technique for stacks, nonetheless, the way that I found it, the way I experienced it, is the fact that it is also most susceptible to human error. So if you're doing isokinetic stack sampling, the first thing we got to do after connecting all this equipment is to do a leak test. If this instrument or any part of the column, including the umbilical cord, if there's any, is leaking, the data cannot be used. So it is a precise scientific equipment. Please handle with TLC, tender love and care. All right, it is a scientific equipment. It has to be handled well, better than well. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this particular slide. Now, this is regulation 16 of the Clean Air Regulation, stipulating the requirement for periodic monitoring. Look. What does it mean? If you have gone through my video, especially on the third schedule and some parts of the second schedule of this clean air regulation that we are still discussing now, you will see that some of those standards or requirement or legal requirement do state the frequency of monitoring, like 4 times a year, remember? 2 times a year or once a year. And in fact, some of those requirements did mention about the frequency of monitoring differ from mass loads. You remember that? Take a look. All right, please go back to the earlier videos and take a look, because I've presented them in slides like this. It's easier for you to comprehend. Now, however, if those regulations were quiet in terms of how often do we have to do environmental monitoring, then this regulation comes into action. Regulation 16, whereby it stipulates that The frequency of monitoring is done how often? Once per year. I hope I answer many questions that I have received before this, asking me how often, how frequent do we have to perform environmental monitoring, especially stack sampling, all right, or isokinetic stack sampling. Nonetheless, I got to remind ourselves that isokinetic stack sampling methodology is not regulated, all right? It is chosen because isokinetic stack sampling is apparently claimed to be the most accurate method in the world and is being used by famous bodies like US EPA. Even in Denmark, in Japan, and many parts of the world are using that standard, even including this country. Even the authority has sets of isokinetic stack sampling. Is it compulsory to do isokinetic stack sampling? The answer is please use that method. Unless you don't have the equipment, you can use other method, provided it is accurate and it has got a justified calibration. Okay, now apparently for new facility you have got to start to do the first isokinetic, or sorry, the first stack sampling or the first monitoring work for air pollutants of within the first 3 to 6 months for new facility, new factory, new premise. Got it? And analysis must be done by accredited laboratory. In Malaysia, there are a number of accredited labs. I have seen the audits. Most of the accreditation or audit for these standards are quite documentary, unless a few, except for a few of them which I saw did ask chemists to perform the test to show how dilution is done, for example, in BOD sampling, to show how the sample is being placed and the reference reagents are being used, selected and used, and in all this I have and in fact this is in the lab, but they also cover sampling technique, sampling methodology. Personnel who perform samples are also being interviewed and also being tested. Now, these kinds of accreditation, what I saw was there is one accreditation body which I am proud, to tell everyone. Have you heard of SAMM accreditation? I'm talking about them. Very high level, good enough for me. And I think if you are SAMM accreditation, I don't have to ask you too much question. All right. So well, that is in Malaysia. Okay. There are so many other certification by ISO 17025. Go on, please. At least that would keep your work standard, which is good. All right. Now we got to submit the report to the DOE. How often? The law would specify, usually quarterly. All right. And also, DOE can give directives specifying on the analysis on the parameters and also how often to do periodic monitoring. Is it once a year, twice a year, or every month? They can do it. And the law also mentioned that at least we have to retain all these analytical data, results, and reports for at least 3 years. That is about periodic monitoring. I believe I have given you some guide, showed you what the law said in Environmental Quality Clean Air Regulations 2014, Regulation 16 pertaining to periodic monitoring. I hope I have answered your questions. So, I think that's about it. Thank you very much for your attention. Please share this with people who might need it. I believe in free education, but inevitably you got to pay for education. But I hope this video would be able to help our friend understand while they pursue legible education in any institution, and help lecturers to boost their delivery of topics related to the video that I'm displaying right now. So thank you for your attention. Please do subscribe and share and comment under the video of your findings, of your experience. And I am inviting especially people who I look up upon, especially toxicologists, eco-toxicologists, perhaps environmental lecturers in universities who have done projects in companies, to enlighten us with comment. Don't just keep that experience to yourself. You are benefiting yourself by sharing. All right. So thank you for the time. I appreciate your presence. Do subscribe, like, and share as usual. And with that, as a Muslim, I pray, I wish all of you in good health, state of mind and physics, prosper from your life, and have better knowledge, and do all the good things for our life in this world. So thank you very much for your attention. I end this with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you in the next video. Take care.